you know what? I would just fall into a pit of despair as well. I don't blame her. But what I love is that Chris Tucker is instead our damsel in distress. It's just
You're right.
so
He
good.
is.
Just the whole time.
Hello and welcome to Steam Powered Movies, the show where we watch a movie, usually steampunk, and then we talk about it. But this time it's something a little bit different. But anyway, I'm one of your hosts. My name is Mike.
Wow. Wow, you went in full speed ahead.
And you are?
I'm very impressed is what I am.
Okay. Do you have a name maybe?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Dana Fraedrich. I am a steampunk and fantasy author. I'm a presenter. I'm an educator. I am a maker. I am all kinds of many things. Also, I'm a believer that Arby's fries are the best. Discuss amongst yourselves.
Oh, that's strong.
I know.
Coming in strong with the takes.
I'm looking to start fights.
I think you might.
Mm-hmm.
You might be successful there.
Speaking of starting fights, there's a reason we chose the film that we did tonight.
Is there?
Yes.
Is there? Okay, well, we'll get into that in just a second. But first, a couple quick announcements.
Yes.
This month, October, a couple events that Dana has going on. If you want to come say hi to her, see what's going on, maybe buy some of her books or crafty things that she makes. October 19th, West Virginia Book Festival in Charleston, West Virginia. And October 26th and 27th at the Southern Festival of Books in Nashville, Tennessee, our home state. I might even be there for a minute. Might see you anyway. Come by, say hi. That's what we got going on. So, Dana, why did we watch this particular movie, which was The Fifth Element?
I'm going to put a pin in that really quick.
Okay.
Because I do love it whenever you join me for an event because you are there for so few because you have a grown-up job.
Well, yeah.
That it sometimes feels like it's like I have my boyfriend's in Canada, you wouldn't know him situation. I always talk about you, but almost no one ever sees you. You're
yes,
kind of
I'm
encrypted.
real.
So anyway, that is a side note. But You're asking why we watched this film.
Yeah, because like I said, we usually watch a steampunk film.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, we've been branching out to other punk genres every now and then. Maybe a diesel punk, as with The Rocketeer not too long ago. Why did we watch this movie?
Okay, so with an asterisk, this movie is maybe cyberpunk.
Okay.
Now, when I was doing research on cyberpunk films, this is one that it is hotly contested as to whether or not it actually falls within cyberpunk.
Are we joining a discourse here?
We are a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, we are just leaping into the deep end. So a lot of the discourse in the Reddit and things like that are that, the world is cyberpunk, but this movie isn't. And if you saw a side story, it would be blah, 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 blah. Some people are like, no, it totally is. So anyway, I'm going to just read some definitions.
Okay. Hit me with the facts.
All right.
Knowledge me up.
All right. So I'm going to actually, there are two sections I'm going to read. So first of all is sort of a general abstract. Cyberpunk is a subgenre of science fiction in a dystopian, futuristic setting said to focus on a combination of low life and high tech. It features futuristic technological and scientific achievements, such as artificial intelligence and cyberware, juxtaposed with societal collapse, dystopia, or decay. And then there's a little bit more I'm going to read. So hang on just a second. Let me scroll down to it.
Find the second part.
Yep. Okay. Cyberpunk plots often involve conflict between artificial intelligence, hackers, and mega corporations, and tend to be set in a near future Earth rather than in the far future settings or galactic vistas found in novels such as Isaac Asimov's Foundation or Frank Herbert's Dune.
Okay.
So a little bit of clarification on what exactly cyberpunk is supposed to be.
Okay. So I'm kind of along for the ride with this.
Mm-hmm.
I am obviously a fan of sci-fi in general.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched many sci-fi films.
Yeah, but sci-fi is a broad genre.
Right. I've even read some sci-fi books.
Mm-hmm.
Dun dun dun.
Y'all, you just need to understand, Mike enjoys media, but books are just not often his preferred form of media.
Yeah, I've read 20 books maybe. So
I've read probably 20 books
this year.
Possibly more.
Yeah. I'm not really been into the subgenres as far as defining them and knowing what makes them.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what you read to me right now,
Mm-hmm.
I say some of those things hit this movie.
Yes.
And some of them really miss it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there's really no AI. No
Not
artificial
much.
intelligence.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's really any.
Mhm.
There's no like implants or anything like that, like
I
cyber
disagree with you
implants.
there.
Really?
Did you see all the headgear that everyone was wearing? There was a ton of headgear.
Yeah, but I don't know if I would call that like implant technology if it's fully external.
Okay, we can talk about the gadgets because I have notes on that. But
Okay.
why don't you just finish with your broad thoughts?
Yeah, it's definitely set in like I would say a near future
Mhm.
compared to some of those other things you mentioned. 300 years from 1912
Mhm.
would put us at the like 2200s.
Mhm.
That's fairly near future.
Sure.
You know, it's closer to now than it is to the founding of our country.
Yeah.
And we are dealing with America.
Mhm.
It's set the president of America that's in New York, or the Federated something or other. I guess he was.
It was the Federated Army.
Right.
Which-
Basically America. It seems like America took over the world in this case.
That or like there are no more countries. It's just Earth, maybe?
Yeah.
That part is very vague.
And we still do the thing where we encounter a foreign species that speaks a different language and we just speak English loudly and expect them
Yeah.
to understand.
Yeah.
So,
Like
that's what made me think it's just an extension of America.
you're not wrong, yeah. Just start shouting at them and expecting them to just get it.
Or just more slowly.
Uh-huh.
Slowly speak English. Do you understand? No, of course they don't.
Mhm.
Anyway, so those things I think hit on what you were talking about.
Mhm.
Some of the other stuff, not really. Definitely dystopian, post-apocalypse, sort of, maybe.
I don't think it's so much post-apocalyptic. It's what is it?
You're right,
They
yeah.
describe that like sort of like societal decay. I
Yes.
definitely see that. I see the mega corporations. Like Zorg laid off 1 million workers.
Yeah, we're just one of the cab companies where no one really noticed.
Right.
Yeah, definitely hits on some of those things. So, you know what? I see the debate. I see the space for the debate.
But then like we kind of leave all of that behind when we get on the cruise ship.
Right.
So
Which
yeah.
is the final act of the film.
A lot
Yeah.
of what I was reading online is people were like, oh, but it's kind of more of like a space odyssey. I see it as just like, it's one of those times where genres bleed into each other a lot. Like I think it really starts very cyberpunk and then becomes like a space odyssey.
Yeah. From my experience watching this film multiple times,
Mhm.
several times, I think it's just like a classic science fiction story with aliens,
Mhm.
like just like an alien story. I don't know.
I don't
What?
I don't mean to like, pull out my nerd card on you.
Oh, please do. What else is this podcast for?
Well, to say like, oh, it's just your basic alien story. I feel like you are lacking some very necessary specificity.
Okay. Well, maybe so. Maybe so. Like I said, I think there are some elements that definitely fit those descriptions that you read, and some of it misses completely.
Mhm.
And maybe the quote unquote cyberpunkness is not really elemental to the story.
Mhm.
See what I did there?
Oh, I do see. Wow. Nice job.
It's like saying the name of the movie in the first 5 minutes.
They did that. They did that
Exactly.
thing.
It's so great. Yeah, the story doesn't need any cyberpunk elements to it. Really, it's a story about humanity, and there's some technology involved, and also maybe some wizardry.
By that, do you mean like this movie could have taken place, like the events of the film could have taken place sort of in like any background, but they just happen to choose a very like cyberpunky like New York?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I could get behind that because I wrote down a note that said like this feels very questy. Like
Mhm.
it felt very much like a D&D campaign
Uh-huh.
where, we have like this imminent evil coming at us. And there's this like only one way to deal with it that like has all of this lore behind it.
Uh-huh.
And now like we have to like get the thing to save the world.
Yeah, see, to me, the important parts of the story are the lore and that the present day, whatever time it is just full of incompetence and like people not caring and disarray. Like this movie actually reminded me a lot of Idiocracy.
I disagree, but okay, go on.
Just the world, like the world reminded me of Idiocracy. It's like we developed advanced technology and we very much take it for granted, but also most of the people that use it are dumb.
Okay, I'm gonna like push back on you on this because in Idiocracy, there's a very salient point being made where all of the technology has been developed in order to allow people to be dumber. Like, if you notice, like, all of the buttons in Idiocracy were really big and chunky.
Well, yeah.
Like, it was like a child's toy.
Yeah.
Where you just, like, push a button. It's like, the cow goes moo.
Right.
And then, it's very unsubtly being like, everyone here is an idiot. I mean, that's why the movie is called Idiocracy.
Right. I mean,
whereas this, like, everything has a very specific purpose. And, like, Zorg, I hate to say it because he's a monster, has a point where like all of these engineers, like all of this like science has gone into all of these like little machines.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mean in the specifics, but just in the general sense of like the state of the world kind of stuff. Maybe the same time period kind of.
I really don't think you can
me.
compare them.
Well, I don't know. It just hit me that way. Maybe it was some of the visual language that I thought was comparable. And also this movie, I had to look it up afterwards, like what the budget was on it, because it really feels like a low budget sci-fi movie in some of the look and feel of it. Yeah, sure.
Are you kind of getting that vibe because of how like janky and dirty everything was?
Yes.
Okay.
That, but also some of the like character designs of the aliens. It looks cool, but you can tell stuff is like glued on, or just kind of like whatever pieces they found laying around. Like the super futuristic, like friendly aliens from the beginning, like they just reminded me of Vogons kind of.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They really do.
There's like big, clunky moving things. And like even the diva, like you could see it's just like plastic tubes on her, like, but it still looks cool. I don't know, it just seems like it was kind of like an on a budget kind of thing.
I want to say, I think that there are a couple of things happening here. First of all, one of the other movies that was a contender for our cyberpunk episode, and maybe we will still do it in the future, was Minority Report, which you will notice everything is like really sharp and like just like clean and like high tech and everything.
Yeah.
Possibly also because of a bigger budget. Like that was a Tom Cruise film. Like Tom Cruise is not... at this stage in his career is not working on like lower budget films.
I mean, that's Spielberg too. So like that movie had as much money as it wanted, basically.
Right. But I will say I would put down not an insane amount of money, but like, a amount of money you wouldn't sneeze at, that this director has watched Doctor Who.
Yeah.
A lot of like Doctor Who level props and costumes and everything.
Yes, exactly. That's the low budget kind of feel I'm talking about. Yes.
I kind of like it though, because I think the movie knows that's what it is.
Like Chris Eccleston Doctor Who kind of, but with better audio.
I never noticed the audio, but I'll take your word for it.
How did you not notice?
Dude,
how did you not notice?
Not my wheelhouse.
It was so bad. But anyway.
Yeah. But no, I think that like this movie knows that, okay, this is what we can do. And also like, let's lean into it because it's actually a really funny movie.
Oh yeah.
It's got a lot of comedy.
There's a lot to it. Like there's a lot that happens in this movie.
Yeah.
In a 2-hour runtime, which is pretty reasonable for like sci-fi epic kind of story. Nowadays it would be like 3.5 hours.
Do you know what I wonder too? Like I kind of feel like this is a little bit like a chicken and the egg kind of situation where, so like, I don't know if you noticed in the very beginning, like the like displays of this like super high level military complex where like all of the like, 4-star generals are hanging out and like the president comes in. The displays are all very janky. They're super janky. And I had to look, I was like, when was this film made? This film was made in 1997.
Yeah.
Like CG was just like really starting to come into use.
It was getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like all of the displays are really janky. And I don't know if this is a thing that happened, but it seems to me like the people who worked on this film looked at the level of like their displays and was like, okay, this needs to be congruous So like everything is kind of going to be at this like sort of janky level.
Yeah.
And because I think they leaned into it, I think it actually really works. Like this film knows what it is.
Oh yeah, it's all very consistent. It's a very consistent look and feel, and it's a little bit campy. It's a little bit janky. You know, the VFX that are in it, as far as like the computer generated stuff,
it's bad.
It's kind of bad.
It's real bad.
Yeah. Like the scene where they're like constructing Lilu
and
showing all like the different like the muscle layer and stuff. It's so bad looking by today's standards. But it doesn't really break character with the rest of the film.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually watching that part, I kind of made me think of like when I watch my 3D printer build a model, just like layer upon layer upon layer.
Yeah, that's how it works. It's the human printer.
Exactly. Which I will say, okay, so...
Or the DNA printer, I guess, because it's not really... It was more advanced than human DNA.
Here's the thing. Okay.
Was happening.
So there's a couple...
The perfect being.
Okay. Don't get me wrong. I love this film. This film has a very special place in my heart.
Yeah.
It has a couple of just glaring problematic issues.
Really?
But... it also has some really great stuff. So, like, I want to get into both of those things. Because so, like, first of all, nobody says it, but it has kind of the vibe of, like, we've made this, like, reconstructed this perfect being, but, like, in our own image. Because, like, originally you saw the hand thing, and it was, like, I don't know what those creatures were called in the very beginning, like, but the alien race who had, like, the huge, like, turtle shell kind of bodies, and they kind of, like, clomped all over the place. I don't know.
The Vogons.
The Vogons, precisely. I thought the warlike people were the Vogons, just like way less bureaucratic.
The big clunky guys.
Okay.
That's what I thought were Vogons.
So
but but like good guy Vogons.
Who's the potato race? The really warlike potato race in Doctor Who.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, or like the really warlike rhino race.
Yeah,
I forget their names.
Yeah, me
Y'all, please remind us. Someone reach out and like remind us what.
Don't
these
revoke
names
our nerd cards, please.
Yeah, I know.
For
so
forgetting
anyway,
the names of these races.
The guys with the ears, they kind of reminded me of like those two Doctor Who races. And then, so the clump guys are the Vogons.
Yeah,
got it. Okay, so
because their actual names in these films were complicated and don't remember them.
It was like Morgul's or something like that for the guy with the ears.
For the bad dogs.
The bad dogs. They actually looked like in Ghostbusters. They looked like the demon dogs.
Yeah, you're right.
They really look like the Ghostbusters demon dogs.
Yeah. And maybe the same people worked on it. I don't know.
There's no way to know.
Maybe modeled after?
There probably is. Like you can do that research.
Same time period-ish.
Anyway, what was I saying?
The problematic, but also some good stuff.
Right. Problematic, but also some good stuff. Okay, so problematic stuff. So like they reconstruct Lilu, but like originally the hand is like one of like the big Vogon hands. So they use the DNA information to reconstruct her, but as a human, which again, it feels like they're kind of they're looking through a human lens. So they reconstruct this like quote unquote perfect being in a human form. And then there's all this like dumb stuff about like, what? It's not a man? Oh my gosh, the perfect being is not a man. What?
See, I didn't read it that way. I read it that the sarcophagus that they were carrying around was just a shell casing that hid what the actual form was. That it was Lilu the whole time, but it was just kind of to throw us off that
I don't know.
There was this like manly quote unquote exterior to the sarcophagus, and that it was just this female form the entire time was always the perfect being.
But why would the perfect being be human shaped?
Because it's to protect the humans. I don't know.
Again, this part of the film, there are some holes. There are some holes here. This feels like very much like plot armor because this is what the plot needs.
Well,
this is like what we want it to be.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Like Mila Jovovich, she's Lilu. So this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. There's definitely some hashtag written by a dude moments
Very
in
true.
this.
Can I share with you?
But also balancing some of that out.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay. All right. So let's go through it then.
So the most like hashtag written by a dude line is, this woman is mankind's most precious possession.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not good.
Who said that?
That is the priest who said that.
Ah.
Good old Bilbo Baggins. Ian Holm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was the android from Aliens.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Or Alien, sorry.
Yeah, he was also Moliere's misanthrope.
Don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. Well, Moliere was an incredibly talented French playwright, and he wrote a play called The Misanthrope, which misanthrope means a person who hates other people. They just hate people.
Of course, you would make a French reference today while wearing a very French outfit.
I am wearing a very French. I have a beret on my head, and I am wearing a striped shirt like the French do.
I expected to see you walking in the hallway with a baguette earlier.
I know you
Didn't
kept shouting croissant at me.
But anyway.
So on the other side of that coin, there are also like such good lines in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like my favorite line in this is when the first time Corbin tries to kiss Lilu, and she holds a gun to his head and says, "Never without my permission." That is a line that I think about every day of my life.
Yeah, and
I love it.
The writers made a point to have her say it in her language, and then him ask what that means.
Right.
So then he could say it, and then at least twice after that, he mutters to himself, like, gosh, shouldn't have tried to kiss her.
Yeah, that's right, guy.
Yeah.
It's like that guy who went and put his hand on my back while I was trying to have ramen, and then felt really bad about it, and it got really awkward.
Oh, man.
Anyway, ask me about it if you see me in person one day.
Yeah, it's a good story.
Anyway, the whole perfection thing is kind of problematic, but that's just sort of an overarching can we not? It's laid on so thick of she's perfect. She's a perfect being, and it's weird because okay, how are we defining perfection? Everyone is kind of referring to her in a physical way. Of course, there's more to a person than just that. It gets weird.
I mean, what I learned is that the perfect human form has orange hair.
Obviously.
So, I mean, that's how it was depicted, so it must be true.
Right. It just not
what you'd expect, though. That was unexpected, right?
That whole thing is just weird and clunky.
When there's stuff like that in a movie too, I think about the pressure on whoever is cast in that role. That must be weird. You're like, oh yeah, you are the embodiment of the perfect human specimen,
right? And Mila Jovovich she's a beautiful person.
Yeah,
she is gorgeous. But beauty comes in so many different forms and ways. So again, just the whole perfection, it's so weird and labored.
I think it's such a weird thing to write that it's almost impossible to cast someone in that. Because it's if you go for traditional Western beauty standards, it's oh, well, you're just conforming to this. If you go non-traditional, that's oh, you're making a point that way. So I think they sort of did both. She was in good shape and well toned and stuff for the film, but she had orange hair and her face is not a traditional Western looking face, I guess you could say. She looks a little bit different. But
I think she's of Eastern European extraction.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So they, like I said, I think they kind of went for maybe a mix of different things.
She would have darker skin.
Probably, yes.
Because on the whole, white people, white Caucasian colored skin is actually the minority the world over.
True.
So it's just the whole thing is very, very sweaty.
Yeah.
But I also get it because again, we're dealing with a prophecy. And prophecies always have just all of this I actually don't like prophecy stories generally speaking because they always have this weird clunky weight about them. I am gesticulating very emphatically because I don't like prophecy stories.
You know what I like about this movie though, and that I've forgotten about it because it's been a few years since I'd seen this film, is that the beginning of this film does not shy away from this is about lore and prophecy. It spends 15 minutes giving us backstory before we see Bruce Willis's character.
Very true.
So I actually really like that about it. And that's one of the things about this to me that for the good and the bad, it's just a very down the middle traditional sci-fi story.
I find this really interesting because you often don't like explaining things on the front end. That's often a kind of a bugbear for you.
But it does it well. It takes its time though, and it shows you stuff. I really like the very first scene in the film where there's the guy doing the archaeology and like, dusting off the thing, and the little joke in the beginning that's like, Aziz, light!
Uh-huh.
And he shows the little guy with his notepad like marking off a cross tick for like how many times that guy has said that.
Which, by the way, good job Luke Perry getting like top cast mention on this, and he's in the movie for like 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah, but like that scene, it's there to set up the rest of the story, but they take the time to make it an actual scene, like that backstory with Aziz Light and him talking, and like you get the sense that there's been time spent here and all of that. It makes that scene interesting.
Okay.
So that it's not just backstory.
Right.
And then you have the mysterious aliens show up, right? And you're like, oh, what's this? Like, you are interested in all the details that are being presented to you. It's not just like a montage that's like coming at you. It's not a voiceover in the beginning that's just explaining things.
Right.
They are showing you through scenes with people and characters that makes it interesting and draws you in. That's what I liked about it.
I did actually really like these alien characters, the Vogons, as we're calling them.
Right.
Because I think so often aliens are depicted in sci-fi as like super overpowered. Like they have all the best technology. And I mean, they got a spaceship, which is very cool, but like they're really slow.
Right. It's so funny.
Like they kind of just like tromp along like really, really slowly.
Right. Like the door was closing. It's like, I'm not going to make it.
No,
Too slow.
I'm going to just give you the key. I'm going to reach out my arm. There we go. And I like that a lot. And I thought the design of all the aliens, I actually really liked it. I know some of it was very low budget, but I liked it.
No,
I thought
like
it was
it
fun.
too. Yeah. It's janky, but like in a good way.
But also like everything, and this is actually something I really like about this type of sci-fi. I like sci-fi that doesn't take itself too seriously. Like confession, friends. I cannot stand the Dune films. They're like very serious sci-fi TM.
Yeah.
I just
they are.
can't with them. I like sci-fi like this, where like it's a romp, it's not taking itself too seriously. Like everything in this is so maximalist. Like they're just doing everything and like dialing it up to 11. I love it. Like everything is plastic, nothing, like everything is fake. I enjoy it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, like you said, just like down to earth, regular sci-fi the whole way through, like with the good and the bad. And that includes the hashtag written by a dude stuff. Like that's very much of the genre of that time, like the 80s and 90s sci-fi. Like it's just exactly that, which is why it was so weird to me that when I looked it up, this movie had a $90 million budget.
In as far as like movies go, I don't know how much that is. Like I don't really keep up with this, so I don't know if that's a big budget.
For
or
1997, that was a big budget.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was like a big budget movie. It made like 263 million in box office at the time, which now is probably like 500 or 600 million. I don't know.
Okay.
Something like that.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Cool.
So yeah, it's so weird to me. This like watching it now feels like one of those movies that would have been like, oh, it's sort of like a cult hit and they were lucky to get Bruce Willis as a star to be in it. But no, this was like a big budget movie at the time.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad they did it in the style of like a low budget sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
I guess most of the money went to the cast probably.
I guess so. Like Bruce Willis is a big name. Like Gary Oldman, huge name.
Yeah.
Like Ian Holm, I don't know how big he was at the time, but like, you know, he's a recognizable guy. He's been around for ages.
Chris Tucker.
Oh, Chris Tucker,
haven't
you're
even
right.
mentioned yet.
Oh my, oh man. Like that's going to be like a whole thing by itself. I can't wait.
There are, I think, distinct acts in this film.
Yes, agree.
But mostly PCT and ACT. Pre-Chris Tucker and after Chris Tucker.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's a very good way to break up the film.
The tone definitely shifts.
Oh, I love it so much.
In quite a dramatic way and all at once too. So yeah, I looked over at you and Chris Tucker came on screen and like your face changed.
I love Chris Tucker's part
oh my
of this.
Goodness, of course
so
you do.
again, I mentioned like maximalist, like everything is turned up to 11. Chris Tucker is just like chewing up the scenery. He's taking
goodness.
up like
There's
all
nothing
the
left.
space. I love it so much.
The scenery is shredded.
It's so good. It's just
it's
so
lettuce
great.
on a taco.
But like, and obviously that's what his character is. His character is like one of these like super duper dramatic, like bigger, like larger than life kind of names.
It's like if a morning radio show gained sentience and was left on its own for like 100 years.
No, this is so much more than that. I'm actually,
no, I find it so annoying.
I love it. Like, I wouldn't want to be a part of it.
No.
Because he is a diva and I have such a low tolerance for divas. But I love like sitting in the background eating popcorn and watching it.
Oh my.
Like I said, I think it's so much more than a morning show.
I would be Bruce Willis.
You really would, though.
Absolutely. Chris Tucker is going off on a rocket ship at Mach 12 and then points the microphone at Bruce Willis and he's like, yeah. That's what I love about those scenes is how Corbin Dallas does not care.
But Mike, you don't understand. It needs to pop, pop, pop.
He's like, yeah, whatever. I don't care.
I love it so much. I love just how extra he is. But then like, I love seeing characters be uncomfortable. I love seeing, especially characters who are so unsuited to the situation. Because like, this is a man who belongs in like the finest nightclubs with like somebody always standing by to hand him a drink and like 30 yes men around him. Yeah. And suddenly like, no, dude, you're here and you're going to help save the world in this like random temple in Egypt. Now get it together. And I love it so much.
I wrote down, I thought this part of the movie was interesting because it kind of turns into a Die Hard movie.
It does, though. You're totally right.
Because Bruce Willis is like the everyman.
Yeah.
But he's got like
all the skills.
He's got the skills from his past, but now he has to be in the middle of the action to save it. And he's like, and Bruce Willis is like, okay, I guess fine, I'll save the world.
Yeah,
like,
I guess I have to.
Because I'm here. But then Chris Tucker is like the inner monologue of a normal person in a Bruce Willis film.
How so?
Because he's just screaming the whole time.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry. I thought you meant like the host persona. I was I don't know anyone like that.
No, it's like if a real person were thrown into a Die Hard movie, this is what their insides would be screaming the whole time.
Right. And actually, the thing I like, there's so much I like about Chris Tucker's character and what he brings to this film. But like,
I mean, the hair, of course.
The hair is epic. Again, everything is just maximalist. Like they have taken just everything and like, okay, just push it more. Is
he inspired by Qbert? Like, what's going on
I don't know, man. Okay, so like, I don't love the way Lilu's character is done. She's kind of really minor in this. Like, she is the MacGuffin, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't love the way her character's done, but I don't blame her at all for like, after she gets like shot at, like Zorg comes in and like shoots up the whole ceiling trying to get her. Like, she is really upset and she's crying. If I got shot, I would cry too. I'm just saying. Like,
same. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't blame her at all for like her reaction. And then like, you know, she learns about all of the wars in human history in the space of like 20 minutes.
That's too much for anybody.
It's too much for anybody. Like
Superhuman or not. Yeah.
I thought, you know what? I don't know much about the Armenian genocide, which has affected someone I'm related to. And so I was like, I'm going to look into that. Oh boy. After like that, just looking that up. And that was just one horrible incident in all of human history. I was like,
which
okay.
There are many. Yeah.
So like, and then she learns about all of it in one go. Like, you know what? I would just fall into a pit of despair as well. I don't blame her. But what I love is that Chris Tucker is instead our damsel in distress. It's just
You're right.
So
he
good.
is.
Just, the whole time.
Yeah.
Corbin, what do I do? Corbin, mine's broken. Why did I get the broken one? Commercial.
I am annoyed by Chris Tucker's character, but not too much.
Never.
It is a good amount of comic relief and realism thrown into this like very serious sci-fi scenario. So no, it's good, and because there's that juxtaposition
Mhm.
of Corbin and Roddy or something.
Oh,
I'm thinking The Price is Right guy.
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I just call him Rod.
It was Rod something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good contrast there. But no, I would absolutely be Bruce Willis compared to him. I'd be like, come on, are you gonna shut up now? Please leave me alone. Green? Are we green? We green?
I do think you would end up just like snapping at him, where he is like, I feel like we would have very different reactions to this person. Like,
yeah.
I would just like push back in my favorite ways, and you would be like, I'm done.
Yeah, you would enjoy it.
Mhm.
That little bit too about the green thing. It's a little bit of slang that they didn't explain, but you get it.
Yeah. It's like a thing that exists in this world, and they just sort of seamlessly work it into the script.
Yeah, like with the points on the license thing, don't fully explain it.
Yeah, but you know it's bad.
Yeah, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The one little thing that is not explained that I don't get.
Mm-hmm.
This must have been a joke for somebody that thought it was hilarious. The mom bit.
I love the mom gag.
Really?
I do. I think it's so funny. The gags in this are so good.
I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but like, it seems completely unnecessary.
It's just really like there's so much comedy in this movie. It doesn't all like make you laugh out loud, but some of it like it pays off really well. Like I think that the mom gag pays off really well by the end because we hear her just intermittently throughout the movie, and it just gets more and more and more until the point like she's telling the president to his face that like, you're an idiot. I know what the president sounds like, and you don't sound like an idiot.
I mean, that part was funny. That like it's a funny joke, but I don't get why his mom keeps calling.
Because it's just, the kind of like, New York mom or like any like, we all like know those moms who are like kind of make everything about themselves and do like the guilt thing of like, I never should have pushed you out. I was in labor for days.
Oh my goodness.
I love it.
Yeah.
And the cuts in this film on top of like all of the gags, which I think all the gags were set up really well. Like the guy who's deaf. And then he's like, give me the gun. And he like throws over like 2 billiard balls. He's like, why would you think that would be
helpful?
He's
like giving the thumbs up.
I
like,
did
I
it.
helped.
Like all of the gags in this are so good. And then like the cuts on top of it are really well done.
There's a couple scenes where they like intercut action. Especially the diva scene where she's singing.
Oh yeah.
Which certified banger. Yeah.
Agree.
Incredible.
Like watching that scene reminds me so much of when we saw Babatunde Hip Hopera in concert. And then it's funny, complete and total non-nerds who I know who like they don't understand D&D. Like they barely know that D&D exists. Like that's the sort of like level of non-nerd I'm referring to.
Okay.
But then I like told them about when we went to go see Babatunde, and they were like, "Oh, like the scene in Fifth Element with the diva." I was like, "Yeah, that's the one." Like, that's how like big this movie was.
It was huge.
Like total non-nerds, completely on board.
Yeah. No, that scene was like, to me, the thing that sticks out in my mind when I think of this movie. I think of that scene mostly.
It's an iconic scene. It's so good. I remember like my mom had the soundtrack to this film, and that's literally the only song I listened to. Like I just like listened to that opera piece like on repeat.
Yeah, and that's one of those where like the vocal performance alone is like so incredible that it's just worth listening to for that.
Yeah.
But then also like a cool beat, and then within the movie intercutting the action and the things happening. Yeah. Yeah, it's perfect. It's great.
Yeah.
0 notes.
We say as we've been recording this for like 40 minutes.
Other areas of the movie have notes. Not that one.
Sure.
Yeah. You mentioned like so many jokes. Corbin speaks two languages, English and bad English.
Yeah. So good.
That was a good one. I thought it was the part. What was it where someone said like, "But is he okay though?"
Oh, yeah. When like, because Corbin, I love that Corbin has like no time for any nonsense
Oh
at
yeah, Chris
all.
Tucker shot
And
the guy.
yeah, because like he's like gives him the gun. It's like, okay, hold this to his head. Okay, anything
Right.
moves, shoot him. He's like, okay, and then like, oopsie, I shot him. It's like, is he okay? He like taps his little head, like.
But is he okay though? That's such a good joke.
It is such a good part. I love it so much. Like and the thing is, like, you saw that and you're like, you knew it was gonna happen, and it was still kind of a surprise when it does. Like, oh no.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh gosh.
Probably
yeah.
a famous flub that got left in the movie.
Yes, I love this story so much.
When Ian Holm is at the door and he calls Corbin Dallas Mr. Wallace. That was totally a mistake because it's like Mr. Willis. I mean Dallas.
Yeah.
Like kind of flubbed together.
But they kept it. Yeah, I actually love that part.
Yeah,
I think it's great because it was all improv too. It was like, it's Dallas.
Yeah.
It's just so good. These are like, they're just on it. Like these actors are just so like in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's so great.
Yeah, it's like this movie just like did all of the cheesy sci-fi things, but in like a good way.
Well,
and the cast was really good.
I think it helps that I think all of the actors were like, you can tell in a film when like an actor is just there to collect a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
It really comes through.
Bruce Willis especially. You can tell when he's just there for a paycheck.
When he's like not into it. Okay.
He was into this film.
Yeah, like the very last what was the series of films he was in, the Unbreakable or whatever?
Yeah.
That last one.
Glass.
Whatever.
Or,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the last one
you could tell. Yeah, but this, like, clearly everyone was having a good time.
Yeah.
So, but you know what we haven't talked about?
What have we not talked about?
We haven't talked about
Oh no.
Gary Oldman's accent.
Oh my goodness.
Like everything in
How
this
we barely
movie,
even talked about Gary Oldman.
it's so extra. There's so much in this
One
movie.
of my favorite actors,
He's
Gary
great.
Oldman.
Like that dude is a legend. Like he can do no wrong as far as acting goes.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
He's like a evil plantation owner, like in space or something.
Right. It's like, okay, so we're 200 years in the future. Southern accents are still very much like a thing, I guess. Like it's because, you kind of wonder how just the country has kind of evolved and changed and whatnot since in these last 200 years.
He's like Silicon Valley tech CEO guy.
But he's a weapons manufacturer.
True.
Which isn't quite the same thing.
Well, except he also owns the cab companies. Like, he seems like he owns, like, everything.
He does, yeah.
Because that guy came up to him and was like, oh, the economy's doing too well. We need to lay off 500,000 people. And he's like, make it 1 million.
Yeah.
Like, he's like Jeff Bezos of the future.
Yeah, it's very much clear. It's very clearly like he is an oligarch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what other oligarchs there are. Like, I do feel like we're kind of missing that piece of it. Is like, he can't be the only one.
No.
There's clearly others. I mean, McDonald's is doing well.
Yep.
And that was another really good gag. When they like get McDonald's, they lose their McDonald's, and they run into the McDonald's trucks.
Of course. Yeah, of course you would.
I actually do love the design of this though, because like clearly it's almost like the Futurama thing where the city has just like built upon itself and built upon itself and built upon itself. It's like, oh, we're not going to tear stuff down anymore and rebuild. We're just going to build on top of what's already there and just like leave the rest to rot.
Yeah. Which is one thing about this movie only being like 200 years in the future from now. Like, that's too soon for that.
I don't know. And here's why.
Really?
Have you ever driven through like the understreets of Chicago?
Yeah, but it's like one layer.
It's only one layer. But then again, we've only had cars for what, 120 years? 100-ish years. Like, I don't know when cars like really, really took off. It's like, not really my like purview.
Like the 20s.
Yeah. So that's just 100 years. And like, we didn't even really have the infrastructure. I remember reading the American Girls books as a child. And in 1904, Samantha's uncle had this like newfangled automobile. And it was like kicked up dust. And there was like no like actual like covering. It was just like a windscreen and whatnot. So like in just 100 or so years, like the automobile culture has just sped away.
Yeah.
Pun entirely intended. So I kind of feel like it's not out of the question
I think it's too soon. Like, the cars are all flying as well. So, yeah, I don't think that's 200 years in the future. But you know what? Back then, 300 years sounded like a long time.
I think 200, it's way more likely that 200 years in the future, we're going to have like automated cars where we don't have to drive them at all. Like, it's insane that we all are driving cars in the first place.
I mean, it kind of is, yes.
So I think it's way more likely that, and this is obviously all speculation.
Of course.
I think we're going to have self-driving cars way before we have flying cars.
Well, you know, we'll revisit this in 200 years.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So lots of good stuff. Gary Oldman, great. As usual with these films, these kind of films, the bad guy is capitalism.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's not just with these films. It's in real life, Mike.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a reason it keeps coming up in media.
Yeah. Funny that.
You know, art imitates life.
Mm-hmm.
So they say.
Right.
Yeah. One couple dumb thing I thought was that.
Go on.
One dumb thing I thought was Paradise is a cruise ship on a different planet.
Yeah.
It's just a cruise ship.
Totally.
You don't get to see any of the beautiful beaches that so-called exist.
Right.
It's just on a cruise
well,
ship.
one assumes that like, because, okay, so I presume that this cruise functions the way that the cruises that I've been on function, where like you have a couple of sea days where you're just on the boat, you know, living it up. And then you have a couple of port days where you'll go and you'll visit actual sites.
See, I think this is part of the dystopia being set up.
Okay.
It's that like, oh, you're going to paradise. No, you're just going to a cruise ship that's on a different planet that also sucks.
I will say, if the cruise ship is nice enough, that is enough. There are some very nice cruise ships where like, you know what, I'm good.
But it's also a low budget thing. It's like, no, we can't shoot outside. We're going to be on this set of a cruise ship.
That is fair. It's an entirely like, an entire undertaking.
But again, they spent $90 million on this film.
This
Where
film
did it go?
Is fantastic. Like, they did have a lot of really big sets, a lot of special effects.
One of the scenes looked like a laser tag place where like the guy had like the neon stuff on his face and it was like black lights for a minute. Yeah.
That was another, like, there's just so many good gags where like they're leaning into the silliness.
Yeah. The part where I thought they froze some people to death and then they were fine.
No,
like
they're
the
just
next
super
scene.
cold. That's all.
Really
it was
cold.
fine.
They just couldn't move and were covered in frost. Totally fine.
Yeah. It's all good. That guy was alive later. You saw.
Yep. Well, the one guy was. We didn't see the other two.
Oh, do you know what her name is?
No, I don't.
Her name is Major Iceborg.
Oh.
Which is such a good name.
So maybe she could take the ice.
I bet she could. She looked like a tough lady.
Yeah.
I think she would be okay.
Yeah, I think she could take it.
Yeah. So I do want to say, I know we've covered this pretty expansively. There's so much in this film that's so good. But I do want to say, there at the end, when they're trying to like do the stones and, you know, they've got 5 minutes to save the world.
Classic.
This is 1,000% a bunch of D&D players trying to figure out a puzzle. What if I like touch it? What if I like, oh, is there like, if I count the number of lines, does that mean anything?
Right.
This like really drove home like this is the quest. Like we've reached the end and we've gotten to like the place where the thing is going to happen and we have to unlock the whatchamacallit. How do we do it?
Which brings me to my biggest nitpick of this film.
Oh, okay.
It's the very ending.
Okay.
The fifth element is love.
Okay,
love is a kiss from Bruce Willis.
Okay, I have notes on this. So, but
it's the worst part of the film.
Finish what you're thinking, and then I'm going to share stuff.
It's just that the rest of the film is so good and interesting and fun, and is a journey that it doesn't really matter too much that the very final piece is so cheesy. It's unbelievable. But that is to me a major flaw in this film.
Does it help if I point out the fact that, though I agree with you that it's really, really cheesy, it's so hokey, they did set it up in the beginning.
Yeah.
Where like, you know, the big evil dark planet is coming. So of course they shoot at it like you do when you're in the military. Oh, we don't know what that thing is. Better shoot it.
Yeah, he said shoot first, ask questions later.
Like,
that's his
literally
motto.
His philosophy. He said that was his philosophy. Yeah. And it was like, you know, the fear and the hate that fed it and made it bigger. Like they set it up for us in the beginning.
You're right.
I know I'm right.
You're right.
But I agree with you. It is very hokey. Also, I just on an elemental level.
Wow.
I'm so proud of
you
me.
You did it too.
I did it too. But no, like on like an elemental level, I have so many issues and so much resentment for this thing that like there is only one kind of love that really matters, and that's romantic love. And not only that, but there's only really one like expression of romantic love that counts. And I have so much of an issue with this one because like I actually don't have an issue. Okay, I'm going to side note slightly.
Okay.
I've heard people critique this film saying that like they don't like the relationship between Corbin and Lilu because Lilu's basically a child. And I don't agree with that. I think Lilu is just a fish out of water that's like doesn't understand the culture and the world that she's come to.
Yes.
I don't think she is like a child. Like she straight in the beginning said, never without my permission. And that to me kind of like set up that like not a child. Like she's a grown-ass woman.
She was speaking like fully formed intelligent sentences just in a foreign language that he didn't understand.
She's new in town and it gets worse.
Yeah, I think that they portray her from Corbin Dallas's point of view as a bit infantile. Like he sees her that way, but I think
like she's someone I need to rescue.
Right.
And
but then
to be
there's
fair,
that scene.
she passes out.
But then there's that scene where she's like, "No, I'm gonna take care of you," and he's like, "Wait, what?" Yeah.
So anyway, so the whole like romance between them, like I know that this is like what Hollywood does. Like this is what Hollywood always does. Because nuance is hard, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this is easy. Like physical romantic affection is easy.
Yeah.
But like there's so many other ways of expressing love. Like, you know, when you both are laughing your head off at something together, or like you just like both like have a moment where you kind of exchange that look. No words are exchanged, but you look at each other and you both know what the other is saying. Like there's so many other things that are so good, but Hollywood only ever does this like romantic, physical, blah blah blah.
It would have been better if they had woven in something else that they like have in common,
but they don't. Like
or something that
else.
they discover together, or some experience that they have, and then they like have a knowing glance at like we experienced this together.
Right.
There's really none of that. Yeah. So it's, to me, yes, it's cheesy that like they kiss and that makes it the fifth element or whatever.
Blah, blah, blah.
But it's more behind that where they try to do the thing where Bruce Willis is like trying to explain to her like why love is worth saving. And the priest is like, tell her. And he's like, oh, because I love you. It's like, but like, why? Like why
You're
are
physically
they
attracted to her?
Right.
That's it.
Right. They didn't show more than that.
Yeah. Like they're not friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And they even said at the beginning that he was like talking to his buddy on the phone, like, oh, I need the perfect woman. And he's like, oh, that doesn't exist. Good luck finding it. And then he finds the quote unquote perfect being, and it's this woman who's beautiful and which V in the dictionary says very beautiful, right?
Oh. I don't know if you saw, I was rolling my eyes at that.
My eyes rolled out of the back of my head, so I can only imagine.
I mean, it kind of works because Corbin is not a poet.
He speaks English and bad English.
Right, exactly. So like this is the sort of line he would say, but oh boy, it's painful.
Yeah.
So it does become a bit of like Captain Planet, with our powers combined, we can save the world.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, like water, earth, air. What's the other one?
Fire,
heart.
Right. Yeah. I wish they had fleshed out that heart a bit more to give it some substance behind it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not a perfect film.
It's not a perfect film. It's a great film.
But it's pretty good.
I have one more thing.
Okay.
Let's
do one more thing.
Okay, actually two more things. One is like
just one.
Okay, well, one of two is going to be just like a nerdy nitpick.
Okay.
Would the dark planet that kind of like solidified and like stopped, would it not get sucked in by Earth's gravity at only 63 miles from Earth? The moon is like over 300, almost like 300,000 miles away from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And this dark planet is only 63 miles away.
I think that's probably far enough away for low Earth orbit. Maybe the force from the weapon pushed just perfectly to get into a geostationary orbit around the Earth. So it would appear to be hovering in one place, but really
hard.
orbiting the planet at the same rate that our planet is spinning.
Still going.
Yeah. So I think that's what they're going for.
This is one of those times where, you know how I often will put more thought into something in a film than even the filmmakers did?
Yeah.
This is you doing that.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, I know. So anyway, that's just like a nitpick.
Sure.
Also, there's a part of me that wants to be annoyed with like the way that Lilu dresses. It's kind of if anybody has ever seen Lindsay Ellis's video on the framing of Megan Fox in the Transformers, it's kind of that same thing. But also, again, I mentioned that everything is maximalist. Like there are like huge cod pieces on the
army guys.
The army guys.
Yeah.
Like big old cod pieces. There were like crotch lights on like the Vogon turtle shell guys. Oh no, they had like full like lights on the crotch. I don't know why. So like, and like everyone in this film was just like dressed like very kind of just, I don't know, like we're showing off like all of our assets kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
skin
so
forward.
Skin forward, yeah. So like, at the same time, it's like, well, it kind of matches. Like it kind of goes with just like the way everything in this world is.
Mm-hmm.
But like it just sort of still kind of gets me. It's just like, because when it comes to world building, I know I get very like, but like there's always outliers. Like culture is multifaceted. It's never just like one thing across the board. And so I don't love the lack of variety that we kind of got.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe like the diva coming in and like the full like and like covering might be like the closest thing we got to a bit of diversity.
Yeah.
As far as like fashion and culture.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it.
Well, you know, that's what they did. We got.
But that's me more just being like really picky about the world building and like the way everything is presented. And of course, because I am who I am and I notice these things and I care about the way that women are presented in media, that like all of the women like were just very like put on display in whatever way possible. I mean, like Ruby Rod, whatever his name is, he was also doing it and I kind of love that. So like I feel like he was a bit of the only representation from the other side of that. As you know, besides the cod pieces, which let's be honest, Henry VIII was doing the cod pieces, but that's a different discussion. So anyway, that's me getting picky about like world building.
That's false advertising, but anyway,
it's something. Anyway, so that's the only other thing I had. Did you have anything else?
No, not really.
Cool.
It was fun. Hadn't seen this movie in a while.
It is a great film.
I had forgotten some parts of it. I think I liked it even more now than I did before.
Yeah.
I think it aged well as far as my enjoyment.
It's pretty good. Like there are movies from the 90s that we watched that we used to love and we're just like, oh boy, oh no.
Yeah. I'm glad this one has survived.
Me too.
So speaking of enjoyment,
yes.
It's time for us to rate this film.
Sure.
We rate it first, usually on steampunkness, but this is not a steampunk film.
We're going to go cyberpunkness
We're going to go cyberpunkness. Okay. So, Dana, on a scale of 1 to 5, like how cyberpunk do you think this movie is based on your knowledge and definitions of it? And I'm going to just go along with whatever you say because you're more knowledgeable than me on this subject.
I mean, again, at the risk of starting fights on the internet.
Well,
I think that this does fall under cyberpunk between like, which we didn't even talk about the gadgets. Like this has already gone really long, but is suffice to say, like there were a bunch of like, there's a bunch of headgear, a bunch of implants, all kinds of stuff like that. There were a lot of gadgets and whatnot happening sort of just in the background.
Yeah.
Not to say nothing of like the crazy gun, which was so extra and I love it.
Yeah. The gun was pretty crazy.
I'm going to say 5 out of 5 for cyberpunk. Like
wow.
I know it's got some space opera things in there. I get what people are saying, But honestly, like, I think it ticks the boxes. Like, maybe not to the extent that something like Minority Report does or Blade Runner or whatever those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Blade Runner
just
definitely more cyberpunk than this.
But I think this still
me.
fits.
Okay, well, let's start some fights on the internet. 5 out of 5.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
And then we also rate, not on any like critical criteria, but just how much we enjoyed it. How much fun did we have? Did we like our watching experience, Dana, on a scale of 1 to 5 gears?
Or in this case, data ports.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
What do you think of The Fifth Element?
I love this film. Like, problems and all, like, there's no perfect film, and I feel like there's enough room for discussion on the problematic parts that, like, I'm okay giving it a 5 out of 5.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna give it on 1 to 5 top hats, 4.5.
Yeah, not cool visors.
Just because the ending, is so cheesy.
Yeah.
The cheesy The Fifth Element is love. It knocks half a star off. I'm sorry.
Okay, fair enough.
But that's
you're your own person.
That's high praise for me. 4.5 is.
It is. Yeah.
Hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to get.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm always a sucker for a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously. I'm not a fan of very serious sci-fi TM.
And this is not that.
I know. That's why I like it.
So if by some chance you haven't seen this movie and you listen to this whole podcast where we talk about it, go watch it.
It's great.
Go watch the film.
It's really fun.
And if you have any suggestions for other films we should watch, other sci-fi genres or steampunk or cyberpunk or diesel punk or
any of the punks.
Yeah, then
solar punk is coming up at some point.
Yeah, I know the one you're thinking of.
I do.
Maybe people can figure it out. Let us know your suggestions. You can hit us up on our socials. We are at SteamPoweredPod on Twitter. We are at SteamPoweredMovies on Instagram and Threads. You can go to our Discord. There's a link to that in the description of this podcast.
Also
you can
on
make
my
a suggestion
website,
there.
On the podcast page.
Yeah, you can go to steampoweredmovies.com. It'll take you there. You can see all of the episodes and some more background details. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you all. We will talk to you again next month. Okay, bye.
Bye. Super green.